Hey guys, Xenith here. So on Friday, Nintendo announced that they're delaying pre-orders for the Switch 2 in the US, saying it's to figure out the potential impacts of tariffs and evolving market conditions. Now, I've been doing a lot of research and thinking about this, and I'm pretty confident I can explain the situation properly for you. I've seen a lot of posts online with completely wrong info, and I wouldn't be surprised if most people have the wrong idea about this whole thing. Unfortunately, there's no good news here. It's extremely likely that they're going to have to raise the price of the Switch 2 in the US. I'll get back to why in a bit. In this video, I'm going to go over exactly what the tariffs are, why Nintendo delayed so suddenly, how much Nintendo might end up paying, what their options could be, why they can't just sell the Switch 2 cheaper in the US like they do in Japan, and if they factored these tariffs into the original price. So let's start off with the tariffs themselves. A tariff is basically a tax that gets paid on an item's declared value when it enters the country. This value is not the retail price, it is usually a lot lower. On the same day the Switch 2's price was announced, the US announced a 46% tariff on items coming from Vietnam, which is where the Switch 2 is being produced. Now, I've seen a lot of people completely misunderstanding this, assuming that this 46% is slapped on top of the retail price. That is almost definitely not the case. I've seen unconfirmed reports that the declared value of a Switch 2 is around $336. This is usually close to what it costs to manufacture, but it's not a set rule. What you need to understand is, you're not paying 46% on top of that $450 retail price. Nintendo of America is paying that 46% on top of the value declared on a Switch 2 when it comes into the US. So if that $336 declared value is true, and it's close to the manufacturing cost, that'll bring the cost of making and bringing a Switch 2 to the US roughly $490 after these tariffs are imposed. Let me answer this question now. Did Nintendo account for these tariffs in the original Switch 2 price? I would say no. For one, the tariffs weren't announced until the same day as the Switch 2 Direct. 2, the cost of making a Switch plus these tariffs is likely higher than the $450 retail price. And 3, Nintendo already took steps to avoid tariffs from China. That's why they're producing in Vietnam in the first place. This new tariff has put them into an absolute nightmare of a situation. I've also seen a lot of people asking, they made it cheaper in Japan, so why can't they do that for the US? Unfortunately, I don't think that's likely. Japan is Nintendo's home market. It's a lot more important than the US because that's where they are based. Because of this, they almost always sell their products cheaper in Japan. On top of that, the yen is very weak at the moment, and that was a big concern for shareholders before the Switch 2 was announced. But it also boils down to tariffs. Japan doesn't have to pay a 46% tariff on Vietnamese imports like the US is going to. So the cost of bringing a Switch 2 to Japan is much lower, even with the weak yen. Another question I've seen is, can't they just ship it from a different country? Unfortunately, I don't think this will work because the tariffs are usually based on where the item is produced, not where it is shipped from. It would have to go through a substantial change in form, function, or use to have a different country of origin. So as I was thinking about all this, I asked myself, what are Nintendo's options here? Based on the info we have, I've made a list of what I think Nintendo could do. Keep in mind, only Nintendo has all the info to know what the best choice is, and there may be something that we just simply can't know. Option 1. Absorb the tariffs. They could just sell the Switch 2 at a loss and pay those tariffs. I don't think this is likely. Like I said before, it could cost them around $490 to bring a Switch 2 to the US. And with the US being their most lucrative market, they're going to want to make money from it. Option 2. Absorb some of the tariffs. They could raise the price slightly and accept a lower profit margin to cover the tariffs. If that $490 cost of manufacturing and importing is correct, a retail price of maybe $520 to $550 could give them a bit of a margin and account for other costs like shipping and storage. Option 3, raise the price significantly. This is the option people are dreading the most. If they want to keep their profit margin the same, they'll have to raise the price to $600 or more. This is sure to price a lot of people out of the Switch 2, but it would bring in more profit per console. In this situation, Nintendo needs to ask themselves if the number of people who would pay $550 is double the number of people who would pay $600. I think this option is less likely than option 2, where they absorb some of the tariffs, because more people with Switch 2s is better, because that means more people buying games, accessories, and memberships. Option 4, keep the price at $450. This might work short term because Nintendo certainly has a large number of Switch 2 units already in the US that would have been tariffed at a lower rate. They could sell these with extreme anti-scalping measures while the US and Vietnam negotiate the tariffs. This is a risky move because there's no guarantee the tariffs will go away. Nintendo would have to stop importing Switch 2s until their stock is low, which won't take long at all, and then they may have to raise the price to account for the tariff, which will cause a massive amount of backlash. Option 5. Permanently keep the price at $450, but raise the prices of non-physical products like games, Nintendo Switch Online, and eShop developer fees. This could work in theory because it would bring in money from all over the world to cover the tariff costs. Unfortunately, that means it negatively affects many more people, including those outside of the US. Game prices are already getting a lot of backlash, so this could end up causing more damage than just raising the price of the Switch itself. On top of that, it's a risky move to subsidize the tariffs with optional purchases. Games and Nintendo Switch Online aren't required to use the product. A lot of people will buy 1 or 2 games and that's it. For each console sold at $450, Nintendo would need to make another $140 in profit elsewhere if my earlier calculation is correct. It really is a better option to have people cover the tariff in the original purchase and then continue making profit from extra purchases, in my opinion. I did also think of an option 6 where they delay the Switch 2 in the US entirely, but I can't see any benefits to that over just selling it at a higher price. That's all I could think of in terms of solutions to this problem. None of them are good, some are unlikely, and overall it's a terrible situation. The best solution, in my opinion, is for these tariffs to go away, but that's out of Nintendo's hands. Thankfully, it does seem like negotiations are happening, and it's possible that tariffs could drop quite a lot or even go to nothing, but I wouldn't get too hopeful about that. Anyways, that's all I have to say on this topic. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.